The cultural practice of haku mele is unique for so many reasons. One of them is the fact that creativity that's based on individuality is not always the primary aesthetic of the practice. In other words, there is value and beauty in echoing words, phrases, or even musical attributes that are already found in other mele. This is totally different from other conceptualizations of property or plagiarism or those kinds of ideas. I would say that for mele, to reuse a phrase found in another mele is to honor that mele and that haku mele. However, this definitely isn't a hard and fast rule. The biggest caveat is usually the fact that the reuse of these phrases or musical motifs are very intentional. But when they are intentional, it opens up another level of composition of haku mele. When I say the phrase, no ka poʻe aloha i ka ʻaina, many will recognize the phrase because it appears in so many mele. When we see that phrase, we're reminded of a certain event, certain people, certain feelings, certain actions. Same can be said about music. When we reuse parts of mele in new compositions, we are drawing on the recognition of the listening audience. We are acknowledging the fact that yes, this is familiar, and this familiarity, and everything that comes with it, is intentionally composed in this mele. This is what I aim to demonstrate in this mele, Me Oe Always Kuʻu Aloha. Not to downplay it in any way, but it's really just a simple love song for my wife. Common phrases that occur in songs of this genre are "O'oe no ka'ue ha'upua ene," "Kahali'a hiki au moe," "Maha ela nei pu'uai," "Meheala I mai ana ho'i mai kaua e pili." These are phrases that appear in other well-known mele, in some cases verbatim. The intentional use of these phrases strives to incorporate not only shared language, but also the emotions and experiences that each individual may recall when they hear these words. So in that way, the experiences of the listener are intentionally composed in the mele. The mele becomes common ground for a variety of experiences, all coherent in the theme of aloha. The same is true for the musical aspects of this song. The song is not the traditional verse, strophic kind of structure. It's a verse-chorus structure which started to become popular in Hawaiian music around the mid to late 19th century, especially with the li'i who composed mele. The melody of the verse is very, very similar to the song Mai Poina Oi Ia'u. The melody uses a variety of non-chord tones and chromaticism that, when contextualized with the harmonic progression, creates a very elegant and vocal-intensive mele. The chorus, however, breaks away from the familiarity of that melody, but continues to stay in that style we often hear from Charles E. King, Helen Deshay Beamer, David Nape, and others. We might consider these composers as a generation or two younger than the ali'i I mentioned earlier. This mele is intentionally simple. It does not demand the listener or reader to think deeply. It actually invites the listener to feel deeply. The purpose of this mele is not to encode knowledge, as is the case with many other mele. The purpose of this mele is actually to allow the listener to decode experience. When they hear familiar words or tunes, a certain kind of nostalgia comes about that ultimately constitutes the experience of mele. Mele is not just about using your ears. It's an entire experience. Mele is the key to access that experience as many times as you want, so long as mele is sung, performed, and enjoyed in those beautiful contexts.